My dearest Dawn, I'm sitting in a puddle of tears, utterly heartbroken by the news of your tragic passing. I know I'm not alone in this. I can feel our entire industry's grief. We are all a tight-knit community of friends, and this is a loss we all share immensely. Close quote. Well, this is one of a string of tweets and messages as news of theatre legend Dawn Lindberg broke on Monday. The 75-year-old who passed away in hospital in Plettenberg Bay was the chief executive and the founder of the Naledi Theatre Awards, one of the biggest and most prestigious theatre awards in South Africa. To help us pay tribute to the theatre doyenne, we're joined on Zoom by her good friend, clinical and organisational psychologist, Dr. D. Now, Dr. D, a very good morning to you. Thank you so much for joining us. Welcome.
Thank you very much. And Zapiri, I'm here today. We're not really in my professional capacity, but, through my very, very deep, meaningful and lifelong connection with Dawn. Over very many,
And your friendship is well documented. Just take us back to when you first met the theatre maker. She was also the director, the choreographer and advocate for South African arts, Dawn Lindberg. What was happening at that time?
As I say, that was what Dawn did. I was also very connected to who she was. She happened to be in the theatre. I'm a theatre lover, very connected with theatre people. My show, Coffee and Connect, featured all the theatre luminaries and their lives and lessons from them. But I first connected with Dawn very, very many years ago. I think we met through mutual friends. Her love and passion of the theatre was an immediate connection. She had a vision of recognizing and promoting theatre people and setting up those Naledi Awards in recognition. And that was a tremendous focus, together with all the other productions that she did with her lifelong partner, Des. In fact, one very seldom ever said Dawn without Des. It was always Des and Dawn. And in those very early years, before the theatre, they were actually singers. In conjunction with that, they were folk singers. They used to play at the clubs. People used to go and listen to them at the folky clubs. They were kind of a semi-hippie-ish couple, but they never got into that kind of drug, sex, and rock and roll scene. They were a clean living couple and had their boys, who, of course, are deeply devastated with a very sudden loss of their mother. And Dawn was a kind of person who was invincible. She was a tour de force. She had a strength about her. There was a presence with Dawn. When she entered a room, you knew about it.
Sure.
You absolutely knew about it. Yeah. So it was the shock was actually really exacerbated by the fact that it was so sudden, and the enormity of her contribution to the industry. People just began to realize, my goodness, how could we ever think of the South African theatre industry without Dawn Lindberg?
And what was it about the creative space and theatre in particular that spoke to her soul?
Look, I think that it was the creative space. She had a very broad and vivid imagination and her own creativity. She loved both the reality, I guess, and the fantasy of the theatre. Very often, if you heard her talk about a production, one of the first things that she would often say is, did you believe the characters? I really believed the characters. So she would immerse herself in the theatre and look for the connection between the theatre and what we were going through. There was, of course, through the apartheid years, they were very active in the theatre. Some of their productions were actually banned. They wanted to project what was going on in South Africa. And so it was both the fantasy, the escapism of the theatre, and the reflection of the reality of life, wherever the life was, that really appealed to her and challenged her and that she loved. And she would want to share with her friends. So, but she was more than the theatre, as a person. That was a very important part of her life. But, she was a very, very great, loyal, abundant person. She was also a bit incorrigible, Svi. She was quite bossy. Some people thought that she was fairly intrusive because she had opinions about everything. And because of her big heart, and wanting to help, she would step in, with a way that would say, here I am, let me help you. Sometimes let me take over. And sometimes people used
having
to say,
having said that, Dr. D, give us a few incidents where she really came through for you.
Oh, she came through for me, honestly, at the drop of a hat. First of all, for my own story in having my children, which took many years, we struggled with it and then eventually had twins, was such a celebration. And Dawn and Des would be so aware of the importance of the miracle of that event. So what they would do every single birthday is wherever we were, most of the time we were able to celebrate together. But even if we weren't, even with the age of technology or whatever, she would make sure that every single year on the 14th of November, she would sing a very sincere and loud happy birthday to my twins when they were growing up. And on every occasion, if it was to do with moving house, if it was to do with commiseration or celebration, unfortunately, her husband, Des, was very close to my husband. They shared a love of fishing. They used to go away for fishing weekends, and sometimes we used to go with, often. No, very, very often. But, they always were available to celebrate. And when my husband passed away, they were the first people that were here, and they do things differently. The way they showed their loss, they brought a whole lot of photographs. Most people come, they sit with you. He found all of the memories and Dawn, and they came and wanted to sit and share the good times and maintain a legacy in the most deep and thoughtful manner, doing things differently and meaningfully.
And her children, Joshua and Adam Lindberg, were also her world. Take us through that relationship.
Well, Adam when I say compromised, he had a medical condition from the time that he was born. When he was 5 years old, he had open heart surgery, which was, I didn't really know them well at that time. Dawn was quite a lot older than I am, but I heard all of the stories and that very worrying time. But throughout our contact, from the time they had the soirees, which were those evening performances where they promoted and invited different guests, across. Some were known, some were unknown, some they wanted to share, to perform at their home. They created a sort of a little mini theatre. The boys were always there. They were brought up on the theatre. They went on the back of the vans to all of the productions. They were around. Dawn and Des absolutely adored both of those boys. And it wasn't a mistake, certainly with Josh, that he went into the theatre world. And he's the creator of quite major events, but they were always around. And I mean, the just way that she celebrated everyone else, every milestone and recognition of the boys, it didn't really matter whether they were 4 or 40. They were still her son and still her little boys. And she was there throughout many of their own life adventures, and also became the consummate grandmother. Josh is married with 2 children. They call Zureda and Shai. They call her Dawn. It was always Dawn. And they're going to, they
Dr.
miss
D,
her.
unfortunately, we have to end it there. We are out of time, Dr. T. But, the way you gave an account of this legend make us feel that we actually knew her personally. And to thank you so much for sharing your story with us. We appreciate your time.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Now, clinical and organizational psychologist Dorianne Cara Weil, well known to us as Dr. D, she was just helping us pay tribute to the theatre legend Dawn Lindberg, who passed away from COVID-19 related complications. Lindberg was 75 years old and she passed away in hospital in Plettenberg Bay on Monday.